Hey everyone, Scott and Frans, we are back with you here. Very excited to be here with Tejas Manohar, who is the co-founder and co-CEO of Hightouch. Hey, welcome, Tejas.
Hey Scott, hey Franz. It's great to be on with you today.
Well, we've been looking forward to this one. Can you start by telling us a little bit about Hightouch and your background before founding the company?
Happy to. So we've been chatting for a long while now, Scott. But before founding Hightouch, I was an early engineer and in the engineering and product side at a company called Segment. So I'm sure many of the listeners know about that. But Segment was one of the original CDPs. So back when I was there, it was almost 10 years ago at this point when I joined. The CDP or customer data platform space that is hugely popular in Martech today didn't really exist. And I was, one of the first 10 engineers at the company and worked there until about a year and a half before they sold to Twilio. And some of the problems I saw at Segment is what led me to found Hightouch.
Well, you've certainly been shaking up the CDP landscape, my friend. A couple of years ago, you wrote a viral post that was titled, "Friends Don't Let Friends Buy a CDP." Quite the barn burner, as I recall. What was your thesis, and is it still relevant today?
So first off, the thesis is very relevant today. The thesis at a high level was that instead of CDPs being a new data source in a company where it's a database that has all your customer information specifically built for marketing and these customer facing purposes, companies should invest in a data platform that they can use across the whole business. So many companies are already making this kind of investment with Snowflake or Databricks or Google BigQuery or one of those cloud data warehouse technologies. And the CDP should be a software layer that sits directly on top of that data and makes it available for marketing teams to access, with an audience builder, start activating across their channels, orchestrating journeys, understanding how their campaigns are performing. But it's really a marketing layer on top of the data warehouse or data platform. And why do I think it's important for companies to have a CDP directly on top of the data warehouse or data platform? Well, it's for the reason I saw at Segment. There's always been so much demand in the CDP space. Everyone's wanted a CDP. I mean, who wouldn't want a database that has all your customer information and lets you use it any which way? The problem comes about implementing it and getting to that golden state where marketing teams have access to all the data in one system. In a small company scale, let's say like a Shopify store or like a smaller, simpler e-commerce brand, it's pretty feasible to implement something like Segment or a traditional CDP where you get all your data into this new system in a nice format, like users and the events that they've taken on your website and so forth. But when you start going to more complicated businesses, like let's say an enterprise that has in-store and partners and online and 10 years of legacy systems, or just like companies with a complicated business model, like let's say a financial services company with tons of different products and B2B consumers and B2C consumers and households with multiple accounts, it becomes really difficult to represent all that data in a CDP. Like CDPs have kind of an opinion of how your data should look, just like any SaaS system, whereas a data warehouse is fully flexible. And then B, it's just a lot of work to go for a marketing team to go ask an IT team, an engineering and data team to get all their data into a new system, especially when there likely is an initiative at any company of that scale to get all their data into a system already, being the internal data platform, likely a cloud data warehouse these days. So that was the idea behind a composable CDP was if we really want to achieve a source of truth in a single platform across the business, the only way is to invest in the one that's taking off across the data and IT world, which are these cloud data warehouses that I believe all enterprise companies are moving towards at this point. And, while this concept sounded great 10 years ago when I was working at Segment and helping create the CDP space there, it simply wasn't possible, right? The maturity on these cloud data warehouse solutions and the adoption of it wasn't there. But at this point, it's pretty clear that that's the standard that all companies are, adopting and moving towards. So it's time to marry the worlds of, marketing and IT there.
I love that. And the phrase composable CDP definitely caught on. Overall, composability has become really a rallying cry, kind of a buzzword. in the Martech industry, and what makes a product truly composable?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think composable is being used, in tons of different ways across different categories of Martech. In some spaces like CMS, it's associated a little bit more with headless, and then sometimes people say, "Oh, is it kind of like a headless CDP?" And I think actually quite the opposite. We probably emphasize the UI features for marketers much more than other CDPs because that's one of our biggest value props, since the data platform comes from your Snowflake or Databricks or whatever your company is using. So, it's interesting. In the space of CDPs, we think about composable as a pretty, generational shift in this technology, but with a few core attributes. So one, composable solutions need to sit directly on top of the data warehouse. So there should be no sort of copying of data. They should be able to sit directly on the data warehouse and operate on it, read and write from that system. Two, composable CDP solutions should be agnostic to your company's data format and schemas. So as an example, traditional CDPs all have an opinion of how your data should look. Put it into users, events. Maybe there's a products collection over here you can use for some product recommendation features. Maybe there's an account entity in some companies like Segment that also have B2B customers. With the composable CDP, it really needs to operate directly on top of whatever table structures and formats you have in your data warehouse or data warehouses. And that's a really, important distinction to get some of the time to value benefits that we advertise in the market as a part of the composable CDP space, is really having the ability to sit on top of data in the existing format, not going and asking people to reformat it, which is a long upfront effort as well as continuous effort. Next, I would say we've really identified that, third is CDP is not really a product. It's a set of use cases. CDPs are known for collecting data, resolving that into identities, helping marketers access it, helping marketers activate that data across all their channels. And activation is the end goal, right? And the end goal is that you want to go use that to personalize experiences across marketing, service, your website, and ads, and so forth. But not every company needs to follow the same linear path to get there, where they need to buy a solution to reformat how they collect data, how they do identity resolution, and so forth. Some companies are happy with their workflow today in those areas. Like they have a Google Analytics that they're happy with for now for data collection or existing ETL processes, or they have like a SQL query they're happy with for identity resolution, or a third party like Newstar, and they just don't want to change that around right now. So the idea of a composable CDP is that it should also be, in its definition, composable, in that you can just buy the components that make sense for your business. So at Hightouch, we do offer solutions in each of those product categories, but many of our customers just use us for activation or audience building because that's the need they have while their IT teams are sorting out the rest, like collection, identity resolution. So it's really composable. You can pick what you want and just pay for what you want as well.
Cool. Well, looking at that view of like multiple different components that you can deliver to customers, I know you recently released a product for AI decisioning. Well, first of all, what is this and why was it a natural next step for you?
Yeah, great question. So I'm glad you asked about this because AI decisioning has been my personal pet project with the team for over a year now, right? Just came out to market, but it's really getting us to what we're excited about in terms of the long-term vision of Hightouch. So first and foremost, what is AI decisioning? AI decisioning is a software platform. It's offered by Hightouch, but it sits parallel to a CDP. You don't have to use Hightouch as your CDP in order to use AI decisioning. You can buy it even if you're a customer of Action IQ or Salesforce or Adobe or Treasure Data or no CDP at all, and you're doing it all in-house. So you can sit AI decisioning on top of any data platform, data source. Now, what does it actually do? Well, the idea is that today, when marketers want to determine which customers receive what campaigns, they have to do that by hand for the most part, right? They're building audiences and an audience builder, even with a platform like Hightouch, we give customers much richer access to data through the data warehouse at an enterprise scale, but marketers still have to build the audiences and still have to build the journeys. The idea of AI decisioning is to turn marketing into a little bit more of a higher level, strategic, outcome-oriented task where marketers can come in and input the goals into the system. So I want to drive customers towards downloading my mobile app. I want to drive them towards doing cross sells. I want to drive them towards booking more business trips with us. Kind of weight these goals based on how important they are to the business. Give the system, give the AI system a bunch of different actions you're willing to take on the customer. So as you know, in Hightouch, we integrate with like 200, 300 plus systems at this point. So you can put in a bunch of email campaigns that you have in Salesforce Marketing Cloud or Braze or Iterable. You can put in, offers you're willing to give customers in an offer management or a loyalty system, et cetera, et cetera. And then you give a bunch of customer data to the system, last and not least. And then AI decisioning actually does the decisioning of which customers should receive what actions and does automatic experimentation at a high scale to figure out what's the optimal combo to balance and achieve your business goals. And yeah, really the goal is to allow lifecycle marketers in particular right now, but it's something that can apply to any practice of marketing that has a high amount of data, to get a lot more strategic and not have to be like experimenting between different audiences and journeys, but really thinking more about the outcomes they want to drive to in the business and the data they think they can serve the AI to make those correlations to get them there, and then letting the AI drive more of the tactics and the execution.
You briefly spoke about practice. Can you share a few real-world use cases or examples of such AI decisioning in practice?
Yeah, happy to. So unfortunately, I cannot name customer names right now when I share these use cases, but I can talk about them in a fairly concrete way. So one example is that we have a very large retailer using AI decisioning, probably a Fortune 1000 type company. And for them, a lot of their sales happen in store. So while, all the rage right now is e-commerce and digital, some types of businesses differentiate more through in-store experiences, and that's kind of the nature of them. And that's their competitive advantage that they want to leverage. So for them in particular, they have certain things that they know get customers back in the store. That's not the area they make the most money, but they know if they get the customer in the store more frequently, they make more money. So those things are like checking their offer book on the mobile app and activating an offer, or using an in-store service that is very unique to their business that their competitors don't offer, that they've shown correlates with higher store frequency visits per customer and thus higher LTV. And basically, this company had been trying campaigns over a multi-year journey, right? On email, on push to the people who download the mobile app, on SMS, to try to get customers to take some of these strategic actions. And these campaigns were highly effective. They were doing, hold out tests to prove that they were effective. But the problem is the results, like the conversion rate from these campaigns, started to plateau. They weren't able to break some walls on figuring out how to get more customers in their database, considering new customers, et cetera, to come and use these services that they know really correlate with high LTV. So that's when they try to use AI decisioning on the problem. They loaded up all the campaigns that they had previously built for the purpose of driving to some of these strategic actions, particularly the in-store services once. And so these are email campaigns, discounts, different things like this. And with AI decisioning, analyzing the customer base, doing experimentation to figure out which customers in what states resonate with which campaigns and at what frequency, we were actually able to drive 50% performance increase compared to the manual marketing efforts that they had been optimizing for years. Now, will that taper off over time? Potentially, but we're still estimating in the 30 to 40% range, which is quite impactful for a company of their scale.
Yeah, I can imagine. What kind of AI is this? Are we talking about the classic AI, the machine learning, or is it the generative AI?
Yeah, great question. So it's not generative AI at its core. There are opportunities for generative AI in AI decisioning, but at its core, decisioning is about being scientifically rigorous with data and reacting to new data quickly and at high scale. And the best technology for this is actually reinforcement learning. So the core of AI decisioning is a reinforcement learning system, with some pretty fancy backend engineering and orchestration around it, right? It's not like a typical data science workflow where we build a model, one-off for a customer by hand. It's an automated system that creates reinforcement learning models on a per customer basis. So the interesting idea of reinforcement learning is that the system can actually take actions on customers and learn from how customers are reacting to those actions and incorporate that into how we handle the rest of the customers. So the system itself, it's more machine learning and also uses some certain technology in the ML side to do high scale experimentation. So also uses things like contextual bandits in the architecture.
Very cool. Is there a role for generative AI somewhere in that AI decisioning process? Where do you see that coming in?
There is. So there are two very exciting opportunities that we see for generative AI in the general framework of AI decisioning. Opportunity number one is one that we're actually playing with today, and our system does do to an extent, though we're trying to make it better and better. And the idea is today, let's say you're trying to get customers to download your mobile app and you load in 100 different emails. Some of them have, offers or discounts associated with them into AI decisioning. If the system was very basic, right, at a basic level, you would think that the machine learning would say, okay, email A is different than email C, but that's it, right? We know a lot about customers. We know a lot about traits about customers, but these two emails are just completely different. And that's not the most intelligent way you can approach the problem. So what we've actually started to do is use generative AI to create more features on the emails, on the push notifications, on the text itself, on the offers, so that we can actually compare these emails at a deeper level. Like when a human looks at two emails, if they're really similar, it's not just, oh, the text is different. These are two different emails, email A and C. They have two different IDs. We think about it at a deeper level. Same way Spotify thinks about music recommendations at a deeper level, where music A is different than music C. There's these things that are similar about it, and that's why you might like these other songs. So that's a core first very simple use case of generative AI, is just creating more features on the content and actions you're willing to send towards customers, so that AI decisioning can get more intelligent on the recommendations faster. The second, and that doesn't just have to be on content and actions for what it's worth. There's a lot of interesting use cases of using that Gen AI on, let's say, a customer support ticket or a lot of unstructured data on the customer side. And some of our customers are doing this in-house today. It's not something our product offers, the second part. Now, the second really interesting idea I see with AI decisioning and generative AI is something that we have not incorporated into the product yet today, but I do see as a future state. And I know listeners of this like to understand the future state. So that idea is to actually help on the personalization side of things. So today, AI decisioning is looking at everything about your customer base, trying to optimize your marketing orchestration towards a certain goal, and coming up with these correlations of, hey, customers in really rural areas like this email, or customers with these characteristics convert really well on this goal of yours. And when it finds these correlations that impact marketing orchestration, we present those correlations to the customer. So I actually have a long-term belief that while the machine learning and data science is very tricky, it's not like rocket science that, we're not doing OpenAI level stuff here. A lot of the important, beauty of the AI decisioning product in the long term needs to be how these models interact with the marketers, how they input their biases, how they understand what's going on, how they use these insights for the rest of their marketing workflow. So we've emphasized this insights area in the product quite a bit, which shows the marketer, what is the AI doing? What is it doing more of? What is it doing less of? Based on what characteristics of your customers are we choosing different actions or emails, et cetera, to send them? And imagine a world where the AI decisioning, realizes a correlation, like, hey, customers in rural areas are not converting as well in this campaign, and then suggests something like, why don't you try to create content that is specifically meant for them, and generates a prompt jam-packed with as much information as it can from the data about what's working and what's not working, that you can then create more content around. So you could take that prompt and, you could copy paste it on Slack to your your email marketing team or your brand designer and have them iterate on it. Or potentially we could integrate directly with companies like Typeface or whatever is available then, and maybe ChatGPT will be great at generating great creative by that point. And start to automatically start coming up with new creative and new content that we could feed back in the AI decisioning system, let you approve those and feed it back in the system, and then tell you how effective those were working or if they were incremental. So I think the second idea is really not us not specializing in creative generation or copy generation, but looking at the data and understanding the patterns of what creative, what content you should make next, and almost being this like sidekick brain for the marketer as they're approaching their program.
Very cool.
Yeah, I like that. And if you go back to, let's say, the today's state of AI decisioning, if you want to implement it effectively, what is it you need to have in place? Is it data readiness upstream, API accessibility downstream? How can you explain?
Yeah, 100%. So one thing I should make clear actually is what use cases work really well for AI decisioning and what use cases don't. And honestly, this is just like machine learning based marketing orchestration in general. It's not specific to our product. It's more specific to the general field of technology. I actually want to write a blog post on this, but at a very high level, we need a high feedback loop and we need high scale to optimize things with AI decisioning. So if you don't have enough customers in your base, it doesn't matter how valuable they are, maybe you're in the hyper luxury segment and you make a lot of revenue, but if you don't have enough customers and you don't have enough actions we can optimize on, so enough customers clicking through on the emails or doing things on your website and so forth, then there's just not high enough scale for the system to learn. And the more data you have, the faster the system can learn and the more effective it can be. So as a result, the use cases that are really good for AI decisioning are at high scale companies. So typically in the enterprise, typically B2C companies that have a strong digital motion versus, let's say, B2B companies that are more sales led as they get bigger, typically. And in addition to that, they're on campaigns that you're running over a long period of time. So typically on evergreen marketing and business initiatives. So how do I get customers to download my app? How do I get them to activate their first offer? How do I get them in store more? Those are initiatives that if you have that as a top initiative at your company today, it's going to be the top initiative at your company next year as well. And let's compare that to initiatives that are more seasonal, but could be, or one-off, but could be very high value. Like we're dropping a new product line today and partnering with a huge celebrity, and we need to get this campaign blast right. That's a non-seasonal but one-off example. And then seasonal one-off examples would be things like we need to ace our marketing for this Black Friday week, or we need to ace our few campaigns that we put out for Christmas holiday weeks where shoppers are going to be going crazy. Those types of campaigns, they don't work as well with AI decisioning, which needs a really tight feedback loop and to be able to experiment with customers over a longer period of time to really get effectiveness going due to the reinforcement learning based architecture. So you're going back to your question, what do you need to actually use AI decisioning in an enterprise scale? First, you need a use case that fits the criteria. High scale use case, evergreen, high scale company. Second, you need some level of data maturity at the company. The reality is that AI decisioning is only as smart as the underlying data we have to make the correlations. What we have found, though, is that, if you are in the criteria that I mentioned, so high scaled evergreen campaigns, and you are doing manual audience segmentation in like a Braze or a Salesforce, et cetera, today, we can actually oftentimes beat that just with the data that is in a Braze, et cetera, with AI decisioning, optimizing towards just something simple like conversion rate, click-through rate, as long as click-throughs are correlated with conversions, which does happen pretty often. But to really get value and real lift from the system, you need to have more data about your customers, for example, what they're doing on the website, more information about them. If you're in financial services, maybe it's third-party data from like an Axiom. We've seen some of our customers use that. But you need to have more data to make those correlations. And you need that data in a somewhat central place. So It doesn't have to be a 10-year investment you've made in Snowflake, but it does have to be somewhere where you can, give us a centralized view of data about your customers. So we've even had some customers, now starting to plug in AI decisioning into like a treasure data CDP, for example, or just the output of the CDP into the data warehouse. And then lastly, you need a good amount of content. Orchestration and experimenting on how we orchestrate content can only be as valuable as the content itself, and different content needs to provide higher lift in order for this orchestration stuff to be valuable. So that is one of the more interesting and bigger bottlenecks. If you have 5 emails that are mostly the same, how much incrementality are we actually going to be able to drive by changing who we're sending what to, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And in addition to that, I have a question about trust issues with letting AI decisioning run without a human in the loop. How do you mitigate that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So visibility and insights and really like this problem of how does a marketer interface with the model? Like that is one of the top things that we're thinking about with the AI decisioning product. Because again, as I mentioned, while we are doing pretty advanced ML, it's a composite AI system. It uses different tactics for different use cases. This is not OpenAI level research. This is business application in the end of the day, right? So in terms of how we think about trust, I think trust comes from visibility to an extent, because yes, you could have visibility and see everything's going wrong, but if you have visibility, you can gain trust. And from a trust perspective, even if you don't feel comfortable with visibility, you can start on a smaller use case. For example, start with just 10% of the customer base, or start with a use case that isn't going to blow your bank account if it stops working tomorrow, etc. So most of that is a psychological and trust issue. It's not an actual risk of the ML system, to be really clear, but it is something we see our customers do as they're starting to roll this out. But so trust, in my opinion, really comes from visibility. So in terms of visibility and understanding what's working, there's really like 3 layers of it in our system. So first is an initiative level. So in AI decisioning, the AI doesn't just look at your data and marketing and start going crazy, right? You actually have to configure the system for it to operate. You create this concept of flows. So one flow is pushing customers to in-store services. One flow is getting customers to download mobile app. One flow is for cross sells. You say how much these flows are worth to you. You put in all the actions that could help drive that task, and then AI decisioning starts operating and balancing between them. So the first and foremost thing we do is allow you to run at the highest level, basically an A/B test. How is AI decisioning performing versus your manual marketing, or versus a holdout, right? So it can be all 3. That's the first and highest level thing. Just understanding at a business metric level, are customers that are being orchestrated by AI doing better at the core business metrics that you define and you're routing the AI towards than your traditional marketing, and to what degree? So is it statistically significant? What's the actual incrementality here? So that's the first level of insights we give customers in the solution. The second level of insights we give customers in the solution is understanding what the AI is doing and what patterns it's finding is really working. So you can see, hey, AI decisioning is really pushing a lot towards these 5 email campaigns versus these other 15 that aren't being that effective, right? In terms of driving the goal that you want for your customer base. They aren't actually super incremental, is what the AI decisioning has found through all the experimentation. And we show customers visibility to that. So the things that are working well are actually what the AI starts to send more of. And the things that are not working well, the AI sends less of, and you can get some high level visibility into that. Now, the third level is reasoning. So far we covered, initiative level visibility. Then we covered decision level visibility. What are the decisions that are being made? And now the third level is reasoning. So reasoning is all about showing why are decisions made, which is where the real insights start coming in. So you can know, oh, this email campaign is not being sent so much. Why? Right? So one reason might be actually it's not being sent so much to anyone because it's just not effective. It's not the greatest thing to hear as a marketer, but we have to hear it sometimes. I hear it all the time as a startup founder. That's one thing we could see in the UI. The other thing that's more interesting we could see is this campaign or this discount or this option is being sent to customers who have these types of characteristics at a customer data level. And that's the most interesting, and where you can often get insights that you can then feed back into your content, creative, etc. So those are really the 3 levels of visibility that we give in the platform today. And each of those levels has a lot more depth, I would say, that we can keep developing product on for years to come.
Wow, Tejas, there are like so many questions we could ask you. I always feel like I walk away so much smarter, like every time you and I have conversations like this.
With you.
In the interest of time, though, wondering if we can close for the marketers in the audience thinking about 2025. What would be one closing advice you would give them as they prepare for the year ahead?
It's a good question. My big advice that I've been thinking about in marketing is get closer to your data team, right? I don't think the future of marketing is that everyone needs to start operating and thinking like a data analyst or a data guru or a data scientist. But I think some of the real unlocks we're going to have in marketing and marketing technology are going to be on the data side over the coming years. And I lump data and machine learning and AI all together. It's really one problem. So get closer to your data folks at your company, learn more about their world, talk to them, give them real context into some of the top business challenges that you're having, and let them give you their real opinion on how you could approach them, and try out new data technologies out there like AI decisioning. It doesn't have to be a huge overhaul or a huge rewrite of how you do Martech today in order to try one of these new technologies. Pick a use case that would be impactful to your business and would be a good proof point. Give it a try, and then you might unlock a new paradigm for the company.
Sage advice. My friend, thank you so much for joining us. Always great to spend time with you, and wishing you and Hightouch all the best in 2025.
Same to both of you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.